This is APYouthnet.
Welcome to the APYouthnet Talk Show, where we look at key issues regarding youth employment in Asia and the Pacific. I'm Matthew Koniak with the International Labour Organization. For many young women and men, the idea of becoming an entrepreneur is fascinating. It refers to being your own boss, going at your own pace, for one day hopefully becoming the next Steve Jobs or Richard Branson. However, for millions of others, such as young people living in Asia and the Pacific, being an entrepreneur has a different meaning. It refers to the harsh reality of working poverty, informality, and above all, the lack of decent work opportunities. Today we have a special guest on the APYouthnet Talk Show, Evan Davis, the presenter of The Dragon's Den.
Every week, budding entrepreneurs pitch their business ideas
and of the Today Show and The Bottom Line on BBC4.
To invest their money.
Thank you so much, Evan, for joining us on the show today. Let me ask you this. Before you became an economist and a broadcaster, did you ever think of becoming an entrepreneur yourself?
I can give you a very easy answer to that, Matthew. No. I was part of a generation in this country, in the UK, who, I don't know, we just didn't think about entrepreneurship. It didn't come up when I was at school or when I was at college. It wasn't discussed. It wasn't something that anyone talked about. And it was, we were all much more into kind of career options of going into the media or the civil service or for a big company or for banks and the city. So it didn't come up, and I'm worried about that. I mean, it seems ridiculous that it didn't seem to be a career option, and so it's a pity, really. But no, and I probably wouldn't have been a very good entrepreneur anyway, if I'm honest. But no, it just wasn't something that was on my radar, or indeed those of my friends.
But it's obviously on your radar today because you present The Dragon's Den. You talk often about entrepreneurship on your shows. Is it actually the reason why you present The Dragon's Den? Is it because you have this fundamental belief that entrepreneurship is one key essential way of addressing youth employment?
Well, I think entrepreneurship is a very important way out of youth unemployment. But I need to stress one thing, Matthew. I don't think it is for everybody. I don't think everybody can be an entrepreneur. And when I watch the entrepreneurs on Dragon's Den, you can see that some people really, they're not going to make it. And the best thing for them to do is to give up and go and work for somebody else who is, or to go and work for a big company. So it's not for everybody. But I think it is for a small number of people, and it would be tragic if people who are cut out to run a business, to get something going, if they didn't realize that that was something for them. So I'm very proud of Dragon's Den and one or two other things I'm involved in that kind of popularized the idea that you can have a go and you can get something together and you can pursue it and it might work. And that really is very important, I think. We just don't want to have any wasted talent in any economy. It's one of the most important principles of an efficient economy, is that you don't waste resources, you don't waste talent in particular. And that means there are, a small percentage of people who would make it in business, who've got the personality, who've got the disposition, and we just don't want to waste them by having them go and work for a big company when they should be creating a company.
In your show, The Dragon's Den, young people have a chance to pitch their ideas to successful investors who then have a chance to see whether they have, firsthand they can see whether or not they have these soft skills. And this is great. I don't know if you call this show a reality show. I just don't know if that's the way that we call it. My question is it not unrealistic to think that many young people unfortunately won't have a chance to be presented to these successful investors? And because of that, what do you think that we should send as a message to those young people with great ideas but without the right connections?
We do call it a reality show, or I call it a business reality show, because it is real. And that is a tremendously important feature of Dragon's Den, that it's real money and real investment. So it's a reality show. It's a slightly more upmarket reality show than some of the singing ones, the singing contests or other things. But no, it's a reality show. Most people are not going to get a chance to be on that show, and they may not get a chance to meet investors because it's not every day that you get to stand in front of them. But you used a word in the question, Matthew, connections. And I can tell you the single most important thing for entrepreneurs is being connected. and not just connected to investors, but being connected to other entrepreneurs. It's really interesting that successful centers of entrepreneurship tend to have clusters of entrepreneurs working on their own projects next to other entrepreneurs working on their own projects. And there is something about the energy you get by connecting with other people who are doing similar things, facing similar challenges. This is just the most important thing you can do as an entrepreneur. So my advice is, you may not have access to finance, just get talking to other people doing similar things. And that means using social media now puts it that you're at a huge advantage over previous generations. You can connect online, you just talk, you swap stories, you copy, you collaborate, you compete with others. And the closer you are and the more contact you're having with other entrepreneurs, the more you'll learn, the better you'll be. There's a kind of dynamic that just seems to raise everybody's game where you do that. And I think that is my advice. And then if there's a big bunch of you and you're conversing online, or you're going downtown and meeting in coffee bars and swapping stories every Friday afternoon, or having a drink and chatting through, telling about your week, if you're connected and there's a little critical mass of you, well, then getting connections to the investors will be much, much easier. You see, Matthew, entrepreneurship, I've observed in the people I meet, it can be quite lonely and quite isolating. And the more you can ground yourself in conversations with other people doing similar things, the better. And so I just think it's all about connectivity, connectivity, connectivity. In London, we now have a little tech cluster. It's a roundabout, a circle, a traffic island in East London. And now they're calling it Silicon Roundabout. I mean, ridiculous name. But it's very interesting that a few tech businesses started there. They moved there because the rents were cheap, and one company moved there, and it had a bit of spare office space, and it said, look, to another one, do you want to have some office space from us? And now there's just many, many businesses in that small vicinity in London, and they drink together, they swap stories, they're very well connected. And the next thing was that venture capitalists kind of moved in and started mixing in the same social circle because they wanted to see who to talk to, what the hot ideas were. And so critical mass, connectivity, collaboration, copying, competing, all of these things about getting close to other people, that is what it's all about. And you do have social media that makes that possible.
How do you think that governments would be put in a better position to promote entrepreneurship as it should be promoted?
Right. So I don't think government can create entrepreneurs. I think that's almost a contradiction, really. I think what government can do is enable and nudge entrepreneurs in the right direction. And I think part of that is around helping them connect. I said I think connection is the most important thing for entrepreneurs. It's just simply meeting and talking to other people doing the same. It makes a huge difference to performance. And I think what government can do is facilitate that connection process. So it can do things like create entrepreneurship clubs or societies where it asks some of the people who've succeeded in business to meet with some of the people who haven't succeeded in business, or where it uses its influence to get people with a bit of capital, simply to meet with, or in an informal social setting, people who've got business ideas. So I think it can facilitate that sparky process of people interacting with each other. It can kickstart that process. And I think that's a very important thing for government to do. And for my money, that's more important than government throwing money at entrepreneurs or subsidizing them. I think it's really about getting those interactions between them. But the other thing, Matthew, that I think government can do, which is important, is it could teach some basic skills, make sure in schools, some very basic skills, very simple skills in business are taught to most students. Just a little bit about bookkeeping, some of the basic terms around gross margin, net margin, just a few things that just make it much easier when you're going into business and give you the vocabulary when you go into business to get on with things. And I think if some of that stuff being done in school would be very useful.
Well, thank you so much, Evan. It's been a pleasure discussing with you. I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today. We'll be sure to watch your shows, The Dragon's Den, and to listen to the Bottom Line and the Today program on the BBC. Thank you, and see you next time. Until then, you can log on the APYouthnet at www.apyouthnet.ilo.org for more on youth employment in Asia and the Pacific. From Bangkok, I'm Matthew Cognac. Goodbye.
This has been an APYouthnet production.